Hey, everybody, welcome. We're talking about Dow 20,000. Oh, wait, wrong year. This is a mess. But hey, we're here in the background in our green room, and we've got some wonderful guests here, and we'll do some introductions in reverse order. So, actually, I don't think Liz needs intros, but Liz, where are you calling in from? What are we talking about today? So.
I am calling in from the same box that I've been kept in for the last 3 years, avoiding monkey box. Calling in from San Jose, California. What's up? Liz Miller with Constellation Research. Hey, everyone.
Hey, it's awesome. Ray, where are you dialing in from? What are you talking about today?
I'm in Santa Clara at Propel Software's corporate headquarters, and I'm going to talk about kind of the age of disruption and how we're seeing product companies become much more customer focused and driving some transformation in this crazy world of trying to get products to market fast and be market competitive.
Sure. Excellent. Very cool. What a hot topic. Okay, with that, back to you, Elle. Let's go.
All right.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on Twitter at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests, your questions live using hashtag DisrupTV. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO and founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, Surviving and Thriving in the World of Digital Giants. Ray is a regular television business and technology contributor on Fox Business, Yahoo Finance, CNBC, and Wall Street Journal. He's also a sought-after global keynote speaker, and in my humble opinion, one of the top futurists to follow on Twitter at RWANG0. Welcome, Ray Wang, to Disrupt TV.
Hey, thanks a lot. I'm here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. He's the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of The Pursuit of Social Business Excellence. Executives around the world pay attention to every one of his inspirational and insightful tweets. And when he's not hosting, keynoting, or leading events at Salesforce, you can find him speaking on business TV outlets such as Bloomberg and posting insightful analyses on ZNet and hobnobbing with global leaders. So thanks for having me here. So back to you, Vala. Who do we have here to kick off our show? We always have some awesome guests. It's not about us, it's about them. And who kicks it off today?
We are so fortunate, Ray, because we get the best and smartest CEOs in the world coming on show. And today's no exception. Our first guest is Ray Hein. He's the CEO and co-founder of Propel Software, which helps product companies grow revenue and profit by connecting the people, system, processes needed to deliver products from concept to customer. Based on years of experience building and leading product management teams in both SaaS software and hardware companies, Ray launched Propel in 2015 to disrupt the fragmented product lifecycle management, PLM, and quality management markets. Prior to founding Propel, Ray served as Senior Vice President of Product Management at Aptus, where he was responsible for product strategy and new product launches. Ray's a thought leader and an inventor. He has been awarded 3 patents covering product network effect and enterprise platform integration. You can follow Ray on Twitter at Ray_Hein, HEIN_Propel, PROPEL. Welcome, Ray, to Disrupt TV.
Well, Vala and another Ray, it's great to chat with another Ray because that's usually not very many people have our name. It's great to be here and excited to be able to chat about what we're doing and how the whole market's changing.
Thank you, Ray.
Hey, we're real excited to have you here. You work with some of the most innovative companies in high tech, med tech, consumer goods. And these are industries where product design are essential. These are also industries where there's been mass amounts of disruption, not just in getting products out more quickly, but also dealing with everything from inflation, interest rates, inventory, supply chain disruptions. And these are hard things to do. So what are these big trends for product companies in these industries? And how has the world of PLM changed along with it as form follows function?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. What we're seeing, I've been involved in product development, product design my whole career. I was early developing disk drives and computer modems back in the day when you had an old IBM PC half card that was 2400 baud, and you could watch each character go across the screen when you were running an old school modem and launching products. But the world has changed radically in the sense that in the days where product management and product managers were the king and they pushed and designed things with features and functions, it was more of an inside out versus outside in way of thinking about how we brought products to market. And what we're seeing is that, with dealing with massive disruptions in supply chains, I think like McKinsey had a report that every 3 to 4 years, we're going to continue to see disruption in supply chains that are going to last 1 to 2 months. That has massive impacts, whether you're making backpacks or IoT-enabled coffee cups to laptops to medical devices. That kind of disruption having an impact on both demand and supply has massive impacts to the business, but also how people have to think about bringing products to market. And then the other side is that, a product has really shifted from the percentage of what used to be typically outsourced to now how do you think about caring for that customer for life? And what we're seeing is the best product companies are making massive shifts in their business models that are looking for long-term customer lifetime value and product lifetime value. Some people talk about it as product-led growth, but the recurring revenue streams and how that plays into how products get to market. Again, whether you're doing medical devices or an IoT-enabled coffee cup that says, hey, when that coffee cup gets down to half full, how do I help you get a discount to go get it refilled at the Starbucks that's only 20 feet from you because it knows where you're at because it's got a GPS-enabled location that knows, boy, I'm going to give you a discount because we're a partner with Starbucks and we're linked. So the way products are going to market and how they're getting monetized is really driving a massive disruption in comparison to what we've seen.
So Ray, you see a world where you're not selling products, but products become services, services become experiences, and experiences even become outcomes. I mean, that's a big shift. So
yeah, that's a great point. And, we've done a lot of survey work. And when we talk to our customers, it was about selling the offering to now selling a digital experience or an outcome. I'll give an example. It's one I love because I'm a customer of their product and they're a customer of ours. Traeger. Traeger's been in the grilling market space since 1987. It was a cool pellet grill that came out of an advent of innovation of moving from pellet stoves to now becoming one of the best, best brands on the market for grilling. But they don't just sell grills now. Now they sell you, an experience. So in addition to having the grill, you got your mobile app that feeds you your recipes. You've got the ability to buy recurring replacement for your pellets as an e-commerce website. So yeah, you can go to your hardware Ace or whatever hardware store to pick up your pellets. You can also get it directly from an e-commerce site. You can sign up and go, with Matt Pittman, who has Meat Church, best spices and learn how to go through the best brisket. And he's selling and collaborating with his spices, and I can become a master chef, like a master class through Traeger.com. And then now you've got Traeger Provision. So like Uber Eats, they'll sell the whole meal kit. So if I want to do a St. Patty's Day brisket with cabbage and everything, I get the meal in the box. So the point being is I'm loyal to Traeger and I get an experience that I get the best meal outcome and I can prepare something like the best chefs in the world. So that's just one example, but in every product company we talk to, one other quick example, Sunday Lawn Care, a company that sells lawn care as a service. So they geolocate and they say, Ray, your house is in San Jose. Your soil looks like this. We recommend it's in spring. This is what you need to feed this thing so you can have a green lawn with the least amount of water in a drought in California. And they know exactly what they need to do. So I get a better outcome of having a green lawn with the lowest water intake. But it's those kinds of experiences that we're seeing everybody that's designing, building products, trying to move towards.
I love that.
Honey bacon or holy voodoo? All you, Vala.
You made me hungry. I want to be outside on
I'm
my
hungry
desk
now.
eating brisket. That was awesome. Great stories. We had the chief of staff for Jeff Bezos on our show, and we asked him why Amazon is such a successful company. And he's two words. He says, working backwards. And in fact, it ended up being a title of his book. And he talked about how Amazon works backwards from the customer needs and expectations, and that's how they design products and optimize processes. When people talk about your company, what I hear most often is Propel helps their clients become and adopt more customer-first approach. And when they do that, they can accelerate from concept to customer and delight their stakeholders. What does a customer-first approach mean? And how do you guys work with these incredible fast-growing companies to ensure they adopt that mindset, philosophy, and culture inside of their business?
Yeah, it's a great question, Vala. I know Salesforce, where you're at, is Product 360, all about the customer 360 on that side, and really putting the customer in the center of things. And again, that's the fundamental shift that we've seen. People look at the experience, the needs, thinking about how they can own the customer for life, just like we were talking about with Traeger or Sunday there. But products where product managers and teams and chief revenue officers now are much more in tune to what's going on with their customers. And we're now bringing the product and supply chain teams and the chief revenue officers and the sellers and then the channels that they're being sold through and bringing those together. And these teams generally had been siloed in the past. And when I was a product manager 20, 30 years ago, we didn't want sales and marketing to know what we're doing until it was done. And then we would throw it over the wall and hope that they would be able to take it and sell it. You can't do that anymore.
Come on, Waterfall was great. We love Waterfall.
You're exactly right, Ray. Waterfall was that design, make, market, sell, service. But today in the age of, no pun intended, disruption, you got this compressed innovation cycle. You got global competitors, and so the Davids, the small companies, can beat the Goliaths. And if you don't have the path and the infrastructure to understand what's going on with your customer and your market and be able to react, you're going to lose at the end of the day. And those companies that have been around, that have been doing things the old way, are going to fall by the wayside and disappear off the S&P 500, because the Davids today are tomorrow's Goliaths.
Yeah, 100%. Ray's been talking about that for years. 62% of Fortune 500 have disappeared since year 2000? It's amazing.
Yeah, we've been seeing this huge shift that's going on out there, and especially what you're talking about in this space. Things are moving so quickly, right? And this is part of what you're talking about, how to get to a customer first approach. How do we get to but they're winners and losers, right? I mean, why are some companies failing? What are they missing, right? Because this is not your, PLM from 20 years ago. I mean, this is very, very different. And what are people doing differently? It sounds like there's a lot of embedding, products are just not products, right? I mean, you can't just have an isolated product that's being launched here.
Well, Ray, I think the thing that's shifted is, like I said, it was an inside out approach.
Yeah.
And the early adoption of these older systems 20 years ago. I mean, I'll use Salesforce as an example and then relate it to us. When I started, 30, 40 years ago, we had a contact database called Goldmine that ran on DOS. All you did was basically have an electronic business card. And then it evolved to, Siebel, and Siebel started putting processes around selling. But then when you brought in, the Salesforce approach of Marketing Cloud, Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, thinking about the whole customer, it shifted. Our category of bringing products to market, if you think about it, we're trying to help companies innovate, but the category, the pillar in the enterprise software space was very stagnant, from the
Yes.
90s and early 2000s. It was kind of the carryover of the Y2K ERP side mindset, and then it stalled. There were 3 or 4 big companies that all got acquired, and they stopped innovating. And we started this company 7 years ago, basically because I had been working at a company, Aptus, and in Vendavo, price optimization for customers, and Aptus, which was how you go from quote to cash in that space. And I finally got used to understanding what the customer needs was. I was a product guy my whole life. Now for 7, 8 years, I was thinking about the customer. And I had that aha moment that really product success is about market success. And if we don't combine the customer and the product from concept to customer, kind of like we were doing quote to cash, we were missing out on a big boat. And so you play that, and then you've got now CIOs and C-suite folks that are dealing with compression, margin issues, supply chain, product, and how products get to market. And then certainly with COVID and the shift with e-commerce and omni-channel selling is forcing the product companies to rethink how they go to market and how they bring these teams together. So to your point, winners and losers in a big market disruption, people are making these shifts to omni-channel selling outcomes and recurring revenue streams. And the companies that aren't thinking about it this way, they are going to be the ones that are going to be the losers and kind of in the graveyard of the S&P 500, or they're going to get bought by PE firms at a low cost because they just didn't hit the growth firms, and we're going to see roll-ups. I mean, I think we're going to see, we may be heading into that now with inflation in the economy. There's good companies that aren't great companies, kind of like the good to great side. If we think about that, but the ones that get it and are investing now, they're going to come out the backside of this, whether it's a recession or whatever we have ahead of us, this digital transformation, and using the headwinds to turn into tailwinds, I think is going to really shift some of the good companies to become great companies.
Absolutely. Ray, this is my final question. We just published Salesforce State of the Connected Customer, a biennial survey that we published. It was 17,000 business buyers and consumers around the globe. First key finding, 9 out of 10 respondents to the survey said the experience a company provides is as important as the product or service. And the 2 companies you referenced early on the show clearly articulate the importance of creating an experience in addition to the products and traditional services they provide. The second key finding I thought was that the average consumer, business buyer, engages with a brand across 10, on average, 10 different channels. So from messaging to social to mobile apps, web, company portals, so on and so forth. So my question to you is, you've been talking about technology companies. You've spent your whole life shaping and accelerating growth of technology companies. Do you feel tech providers are catching up to the market needs, this decentralized, digital first, hyper knowledge sharing economy that we're a part of?
Great question. I think we're still a bit in the early innings. I think things are going more deeper into industry vertical clouds. Instead of having the horizontal technology that you had to spend a lot of money to configure, to put your lingua franca of how you did business. So I think that's the big shift from like the IT spend, vertical clouds that are tuned, know my business. And then in a SaaS model, I can innovate because I'm getting the wisdom of crowds of this new industry solution that I'm getting benchmark capabilities built in based on the companies that are delivering industry clouds. That's number one. Number two, I think the big thing that we're seeing as a shift is that when you close the product value, the product gap between product teams, supply chains, the commercial teams that are trying to bring them to market, there's going to be an advent of what we believe is product operations. And you've had sales operations on one side. You've got product management that have been more feature function. How do you get the dev teams to work together? But there's a bridge here of a product operation person that's going to own profitability, margin, availability, really understanding the imbalance between supply and demand, and ensuring that if you're trying to take a company and grow at 5 points of margin and you're going to go into new markets, you're going to have to orchestrate the whole office. It's not a back office or a front office problem. And this product operations team is that bridge to close that gap. So I think there's going to be some new C-suite folks that are going to talk about product operations in that side. That'll be a growing area. And all these physical product companies, and Vala, you're in the software space, we're in software. We have customer success management. We have to worry about recurring revenue streams and renewals. Product companies are going to have to worry about recurring revenue streams and renewals. And it's customer lifetime value, but it's product lifetime value, forever, like Traeger, Sunday, every product company. So I think that's where this gap is going to close, and it's going to just accelerate as more and more newcos move to these recurring revenue streams.
Great nuggets of wisdom, Ray. Wow. A lot to unpack in that last answer, folks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I know we're definitely seeing a shift in where PLM's going, definitely how people are getting products out the door, and really appreciate your insights here. Here we are, Ray Hein, CEO and founder of Propel. You can follow him on Twitter at Ray_Hein_Propel. I think there's an underscore after that too. So anyways, So thank you so much for being on the show. Happy Friday, and maybe we'll see you back in the green room.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Vala. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
That was an incredible answer. The last piece, a lot to unpack there. Okay, this is how we do it at DisrupTV. One amazing CEO after another. Our next guest, Steve Lucas, CEO of iCIMS, the talent cloud company. Steve joined iCIMS in 2020 as Chief Executive Officer, bringing 25 years of extensive leadership experience in enterprise software. Steve is leading the vision and plans of iCIMS into its next phase of growth and product innovation and strategic acquisitions. Steve is focusing on solidifying his position as the world's leading talent cloud company. Every executive I meet with today, top priority, recruitment and retention of talent. Steve brings expertise in building strong workforce from holding senior executive roles at global enterprise software organizations, including Adobe, Marketo, SAP, Salesforce, and Business Objective. During his tenure as CEO of Marketo, Steve led a multi-year product expansion growth strategy, resulting in the acquisition of the company by Adobe in 2018, making it the largest acquisition in Adobe's history. You can follow Steve on Twitter at nstevenlucas. Welcome, Steve, to DisrupTV.
Thank you. I am thrilled to be here. It's good to see both of you again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Steve, it is awesome having you here. You are legendary, and legendary for many reasons, for your exits, for your leadership, and for what's been going out there. And so when you told me you were going to join iCIMS, I was like, aren't you done? Aren't you done? I mean, you've done so much.
He's too young to be done, Ray. What are you talking about?
He's too young to be done. That's true.
He looks healthier than both of us.
49 years young, but this year's the big awesome.
See, that's what I'm saying. He could be out playing golf, doing all the other things. And I'm like, why did you choose iCIMS, right, to join them? And this was a while back, right? And of course, I mean, there's some similarities that you're talking about between your last company, Marketo and Adobe, and iCIMS. So let's start there. So it's very, very interesting areas. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been in the world of enterprise software for technically 27. I say 25 years plus, and I'm going to keep it there. So 25 years plus, and worked for some great companies, as you said, Microsoft, Adobe, Salesforce.com, absolutely, and the like, and SAP, of course. Having been CEO of Marketo and now CEO of iCIMS, look, I looked at the world of marketing automation and MarTech that I came from. And then I looked at the world of recruiting and I said, look, this world of recruiting can be better served. If you look at what recruiters do, they need to have a sales skill set. They need to have a marketing skill set. What are they selling in marketing? Companies to people. That's what they're doing. They're trying to convince you to come join their company, right? That's a tough job. And then I looked at the world of recruiting software, and with the exception of iCIMS, the reality is that not well served, right? Recruiters, they need that sales technology, they need marketing technology, and I just saw iCIMS as an incredible way to bring the marketing automation skill set that I had to the world of recruiters and recruiting, and that's what I've been doing. In the past 2 years, we've been building something that we call the Talent Cloud. And the Talent Cloud is all about that one-stop shop to just help companies find and hire the best talent in the world. I am loving it.
You should be loving it because it is absolutely top of mind of every executive that I have the privilege of collaborating with. This week, I hosted a CMO dinner in Boston, a dozen CMOs. And we kicked off the roundtable talking about top challenges, concerns, and perhaps opportunities. 1, 2, it was either 1 or it was number 2, recruitment and retention. And these CMOs represent some of the biggest, most successful companies in the Boston area. And this hybrid work model in the office or at home, and the mix was the biggest challenge. And then this notion of competitors giving you an opportunity to work from anywhere. Like my company doesn't care where you live. You could work anywhere in the world and be part of our marketing organization. So these companies, some of the traditional ones, not digital native companies born in the cloud, mobile, social, I call them digital immigrant companies, are really struggling. So how can Talent Cloud, your company, help these CMOs who are really concerned about keeping their best talent and expanding their teams?
Well, it's helping everybody. I mean, right now, so we run a bunch of surveys every year, and then there's just incredible market data that's out there right now. So what's fascinating, 92% of business leaders say they're not going to hit their hiring goals this year. So pick an industry, doesn't matter. Healthcare, manufacturing, construction, you're not hitting your hiring goals. You're not delivering on your business objectives. It's simple math, right? But that's where we are. So you've got this massive number of people that are saying we're just not going to hit our hiring goals. On top of that, last year alone, we had 48 million people, 43 or 48 million, I'll have to confirm, 43 million. 43 million people quit in the US last year.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's insane when you think about it, right? And by the way, on top of that, 44% increase in job postings this year over a record year of job posting growth last year. So 44% more jobs. Guess what happened to applicant activity this year? It's flat, 0. So job postings going through the roof. That means demand for people going through the roof. But the supply of people, skilled labor especially, it's not going anywhere. So if you want to know where's the Great Resignation, what's going on with the Great Resignation? Why is that a thing? Well, it's a thing. Actually, I did realize it's actually 48 million people, not just to terrify. Now I remember it's 48 million.
Huge number, regardless.
It's even more terrifying. But the point is that when you have these simple but profound supply and demand equations, demand far outstripping supply, what that means is that you've got obviously competition for talent is massively increasing. You look at what Amazon, just a few months ago, they announced that they were massively increasing the amount of compensation they were going to offer people. They basically took limits off corporate jobs. Look at what Microsoft did just a few days ago, same announcement. But your point on remote work, this is profound. In the news today or yesterday, Apple's head, their lead machine learning, guy at Apple, he left, and what did he cite? Inflexible work environment at Apple. At Apple, right? So the point is that if companies aren't adapting more quickly to this new world that we live in, and I know it seems obvious, but if an executive gets up on a Tuesday and says, right, it's 2019 again, everybody's going to come into the office, you're going to lose.
I agree.
Yeah, no, we're definitely seeing and hearing different things, right? I mean, the banks have been trying for a while to get folks into the office. You've seen JP Morgan, you've seen Goldman, everyone's trying to get folks into the office, and occupancy rates in New York City at this moment are 5% in the city cores. And if that tells you anything in terms of what's going on, but there's a lot of pressure out there in terms of trying to make it work. And it's going to be interesting to see who provides that flexibility. Can I talk about this acquisition, Candidate ID? Is that something that's within bounds? Are we allowed to talk about them?
It is inbound. We should kick that ball.
Okay. All right, it's inbounds. Good. I just want to make sure because you and I talk a lot about things. I just want to make sure this is inbounds. So let's talk about Candidate ID. I mean, this is a very interesting acquisition, and let's start with why would you consider this? And this feels like Marketo for recruiting. So
I think you stuck the landing on that one. In many respects it is. Look, the challenge that you have when you think about hiring talent at scale, the reality is that first of all, you have to attract people to your company. And you're fishing in a lot of different ponds, right? There's, the traditional universities that you're recruiting. There's historically Black colleges and universities that you need to be engaged in investing with. There's just myriad places that you need to go source for talent. That's step one of a 100-step process. Once you have somebody interested, how are they engaged in your company culture, unpacking texture, all of that, personalizing content? It requires marketing automation technology. I know that. I've lived that life. I think, Ray, that's why you're bringing it up. And that's exactly the point, is we looked at this and said, look, you can either have recruiters do all of this work manually, craft emails, send text messages, or you can automate it. And that's what we're doing, is we're raising the waterline. So candidate ID, in a literal sense, is that kind of Marketo for recruiting and for recruiters, and it changes their jobs. Instead of me having to handcraft all of this stuff, it's automated, it's responsive. So as a candidate or applicant visits your career site, maybe they click on benefits and they really want to understand things like, hey, what are the benefits for a single parent, as a case in point? Instead of you having to have a meeting to opine on that, just have the marketing automation technology deliver that information personalized with texture and authenticity in real time through whatever medium, email, social, mobile, web, it doesn't matter. We can deliver that with candidate ID.
That's amazing.
Very, very cool.
I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she competes in her high school as part of DACA, a business-oriented sort of classes and competition with other high schools. And they had just won a regional event, and so the school on Instagram referenced the team. And my daughter comes home, and a couple of business schools followed her on Instagram. And she started researching these schools. They were not on her radar, but the mere fact, she got excited that they were excited and interested in her. So I thought, wow, what an amazing way to recruit college students. My oldest goes to Bentley at $80,000 a year tuition. So, I'm like, I'm never going to retire because I have three really smart kids who are all going to want to end up going to good schools. But to me, it was just a reminder that use of unstructured data and connecting organically is a wonderful way, and it works with digital natives and Gen Z. And so my question to you is, are you excited about the evolution of machine learning and AI and ability to really use unstructured data and in an organic, graceful way, engage with talent, get them excited about the company culture and vision, and then use that power of pull to bring recruits into the company versus, spray and pray and hope that they're engaged and interested in what the company's doing?
Well, it's a great question. And look, we're going to live in the land of hyperbole for a minute, just because it'll serve a really good purpose today. So in the land of hyperbole, your future when it comes to engaging applicants, candidates, and the like, and recruiting people to your company, it can either be get a really boring job description, probably heavily edited by legal, stick it on your website, and wait.
Yeah.
Or you can engage candidates in an authentic manner, video driven, right? Harness the power of your employees. We have this technology we call Video Studio. Internally, we lovingly refer to it as the TikTok for career sites.
Love that.
Instead of spending $2 million on high production video that 5 people are going to watch, and it's not real. Yeah. Instead, harness the power of your employees. And by the way, many of whom love TikTok, right? Yeah. Get their phones, let them point it at themselves, and let them rant and rave. They are your brand advocates about your company, your values, what they love about your business, and do it by the hundreds, the thousands. That's what we're doing with Video Studio. And then just make those videos available to people to consume. So I understand from someone who looks like me and sounds like me, that's real. Not, well, here at our company, we pride ourselves. That's not helpful. Yeah. And so this new generation, but I believe all generations, they will benefit from authenticity. So the future, it's authentic, it's engagement through video. Of course, for recruiters, it's going to be automated and more intelligent with AI. But if you don't start with authenticity, already lost.
Is that what's been missing all along, Steve? You take someone like yourself, nearly 3-decade marketing rock star, and you bring marketing into HR and human capital management and recruitment. Is that what's really ultimately the great storytelling, the great way to educate and inspire in an authentic way, where your thoughts and your words and your actions are aligned? Is that what's missing? Because you're right, most companies, it's a filtered job description that will just put you to sleep with somewhat unrealistic expectations. I need a Web3 metaverse with 6 years of experience. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's amazing, some of the emerging tech job descriptions where the technology hasn't been around for 2 years, and we've got this boilerplate 6-year experience. I just think it's just amazing what you're doing.
It's what's missing. And the picture of the guy on that book right behind you, what I learned from him at Salesforce.com, he's the best storyteller in the business, in a good way. He can tell a story. And last time I checked, humans, we evolved sitting around campfires, telling each other stories. We love movies. We love songs. They all tell stories. But yet, for some reason, in the world of recruiting and pulling talent into your organization, we've decided to make it sterile and boring. And that's what we're raging against. And that's where the disruption has to come from, is storytelling and authenticity. This is how you reach and move people, not job descriptions.
You have the most important company, in my opinion, at this moment. Your work is going to be incredibly impactful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, and the other thing is, like, as you're thinking about like projecting into the future, right? Because now you're sitting on this data, all this insights, you can see kind of where the trends are happening, right? Like what the hot jobs are, what people are recruiting for, what's going on. That takes us to another level, though, in terms of strategy, right? If you're advising CEOs today about what they need to do to transform their organizations so that they're more attractive to candidates, very, very scarce candidates. Is there any advice that you'd provide them to say, hey, these are a couple things that you probably want to start with, along with the authenticity and some of the things that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, I would. So first of all, if you ask every CEO or COO or CMO out there, what Salesforce automation tool do you use? They're going to know the answer, just like that. But if you ask them, and most of the time it's Salesforce, but if you ask them, what tool or what solution do you use to find and hire people? They'll go, how is that a possibility? Yet this is the world that we live in. How can you not know this? Number one. And then number two, imagine a sales scenario where we said, you know what, just kind of use Excel and sell a deal and never capture any insight into what you did right when you closed the deal, what you did wrong, who's more effective or not, right? That's what Salesforce automation does. Well, guess what? iCIMS, that's what we do for hiring. So my counsel to a CEO is harness the data, capture it every time you either hire or don't hire someone, and use that information to better your process so you're more precise in who goes into the top of funnel and ultimately who you hire. And that will also drive better retention. So we deliver that. That's where, our vision, said simply, is to be that pipeline or funnel automation technology that gives you all of that data and rich insight so you get better and better infinitely at hiring.
That's true. Can you tell me about the onboarding process? I'm a CEO. I want my company to be the best place in terms of recruitment and retention. When I buy your iCIMS solution, how long before I'm ready to test drive the solution and implement and put it into practice?
Well, it totally depends on the size of the company.
Size of the company, yeah.
We serve, you can be up and running in a matter of weeks on iCIMS, but there's also months. We have companies that, as a case in point, so Amazon.com uses iCIMS. They've hired over 1 million people using iCIMS. Wow. So this is the kind of stuff that's out there, right? But, you have these massive global companies, multinational, where they have 40, 50, 60 sites. So we're deploying across all of those. But our point is there's a difference between hiring talent, which you can use lots of tools for that, but hiring talent at scale where you're making hundreds, thousands, or hundreds of thousands of hires per year, that's when you need iCIMS.
I can see why you are attracted to be the CEO of the company. You've got the largest companies in the world as clients and, serving a need that we're all concerned about. So now, Ray, you have your answer. why he's not golfing.
I've got my answer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's
No,
amazing.
it definitely makes a lot of sense here. And Steve, thank you so much for being here. We're Steve Lucas, CEO of iCIMS, the talent cloud company. And you can follow him on Twitter at @nstevenlucas. And of course, you can always catch up with his insightful tweets. And of course, you're doing a lot talking about talent cloud out there. So follow him for some very interesting insights, as well as the iCIMS blog. So thanks a lot, Steve. We'll catch up with you. So
Thank you, Steve.
See ya.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, I want to pause a little bit. Okay, so this is the cleanup hitter spot, we call it affectionately, where we bring the best and brightest people we know to bring it home for us.
I'm mad at you.
So
No, I'm mad.
Our next guest, as you all know, because she's a first ballot Hall of Fame Disrupt inductee, Liz Miller, Vice President and Principal Analyst at Constellation Research, focused on org-wide team sport known as customer experience. Every CEO that's been on the show has touched upon this important need. While covering all core pillars of CX, sales, service, and marketing, Liz spends time zeroing in on business demands on today's chief marketing officers, the evolution of customer engagement, the rising requirement for new security posture that accounts for the threat to brand trust. Prior to joining Constellation, Liz oversaw research program and content for Chief Marketing Officer Council. You can follow Liz, an awesome follow, on Twitter at Liz K Miller, MILLER. Welcome back, Hall of Fame inductee to DisrupTV.
I'm mad at you. You know I'm mad at you. You know why I'm mad at you, Vala? Because it's like you start by saying, oh, we've got all these great CEOs. And then I just picture like the little rolling text on the bottom that's going to say, and also Liz. Like, we've got these amazing thinkers. Oh, and by the way, we're going to have Liz on too. Like I feel like I'm in brackets.
Every CEO is looking for a CMO whisperer, and that's who you are. So
I'm
welcome.
telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. And also, I think that Steve Lucas is just trying to avoid me because, I love Steve. He's awesome. He was great. It was great. And Ray was great too. It was an awesome show. But they both said really important things on there, right? Because it's true. Like, we're changing.
Hey,
What resonated most with you? What resonated?
Yeah, what resonated most with you?
Two great storytellers, two great CEOs.
God, that's a great question. I think that Ray's conversation about, that's just the change of the process of product was really resonated with me. But I gotta say, what really hit home was Steve talking about talent, right? Because I think that it's really, really easy to get caught up in a lot of the headlines of like, oh, the Great Resignation. And when we see those headlines, it's super easy to just discount them. Like, it's nothing. But when you start to realize just how big of that gap, I mean, November was the largest month. November of 2021 was the single largest month for voluntary job disconnections. So when you just walk out, like when you're just gone, right? You leave, you haven't been fired, you haven't been terminated, you haven't been laid off. People just left their jobs in November before the holidays, which is very atypical. December, the last day of December 2021, according to the Department of Labor, we had the largest numbers of open jobs ever available. So you have all these all these jobs available. There's a disconnect, right? And in marketing, this is especially palpable. And so I'm right at the tail end, like literally like the last couple of folks that I'm getting to have complete the survey of kind of what I do here with Constellation. We do an annual study of CX and CMO titles. And I ask a bunch of questions like, hey, what technology are you looking at? What are your main goals and mandates? But this year I asked who was deeply involved in their CX team. Like, who's on that squad? So are you bringing in sales? Are you bringing in marketing? Is digital? Where's the CEO? Where's the board? But then I threw everyone for a loop and I asked everybody, okay, where's legal? Where's risk? Where's HR? And I asked, who's a collaborator? Who's a partner? Who's a roadblock? And who's missing an action? And I think everyone can probably guess, like procurement, finance, they're all roadblocks. Interestingly, IT is now considered a collaborator and a partner. So they're doing great, which is awesome, especially when we're talking about this world digital experience. One of who's missing an action? HR.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And when you have HR being the person who CDOs, CMOs, chief service, chief sales officers feel is missing in action from the ability to drive home CX strategies and EX strategies, there's a problem there, right? There's an inherent disconnect. And so I think a lot of the things that Steve was talking about really hit home, because, the reality is not having those advanced technologies, not having that connected data, not having that total candidate picture of what process and who we're engaging with it's damaging our capacity to deliver on our growth strategies.
Why do you think HR is missing? Why is it that? Why do you think HR is missing from the CX?
We treat them like they're a waiter coming to take our order, right? Like we're at a Chinese
lack of authority. Lack of authority.
Yeah, we sit there and we, think about how you hire. Like think about how I know that when I was hiring teams, and I would look at HR, and HR would be like, okay, so what's the position? I'm like, no, let me give you the 10 things I want off the menu, right? Like I'm gonna order my a la carte box, and you just go get me that person. And I think that, in the same way that CMOs got called to the table for not having strategic conversations with the CIO, we used to treat the CIO like they were the waiter. Like, I want these 10 technologies and have them working right away, please. Like, bring them out to my table. But that we've kind of started to rectify that. It's not perfect. Everyone who's a CIO, don't jump on Twitter and call me evil for saying that we've solved the problem. I know that
that's Liz K. Miller, for those of you watching.
Well, I think that we're starting to. We haven't yet done that in HR, and we have to.
But back to your point, right, with HR, those employee experiences, those work experiences, they're often not covered, right? And that's something you're doing next week, actually, at the Ambient Experience Summit, right? Which is pretty interesting. Talk about how CX and employee experience are coming together. So.
Yeah, no, it's great. So we're hosting the Ambient Experience Summit in Manhattan. We're taking over the Big Apple, or like a block of it. Like, I'm not going to take over the whole thing. I'm just going to take a block. But we're trying to bring this conversation together, because here's what happens. People focus in on customer experience, and we double down. We're going to have all these strategies. We're going to bring data to it. It's going to be this really rich, robust strategy. It's an enterprise-wide team sport. And then we look at employee experience, and we're like, hey, HR, what you got for us? Right there, we're not as involved. We're not bringing that together. And there are a lot of critics of things called, employee experience. I work with one of them, and I think, when I have these conversations with our colleague Holger, he's very right in saying that people talk a big game about employee experience, but there's not a lot of those tools and solutions. There's not a lot of the processes. A lot of it is lip service, right? Yet employees are walking out. We have to focus on employee experience, because the reality is, who delivers our customer experiences, right? Yeah. Like, yes, if we all move into Ray's world of like the machines have taken over and they're doing it all, pretty soon it's going to be them. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a person that's somehow still involved in that delivery.
But you still want a human. You definitely always still want a human at some point.
You want that human assistant, like in that roadmap, Ray, that you've developed of like how we get through those stages. There's always that human interaction, that human assisted stage. And I think we've kind of forgotten about that. We've kind of thrown digital at it, but there's always that person. Yeah. And I think that what employee experience is really looking to do is acknowledge that we need to make that person's work about that person, as opposed to making people change their work styles in order to fit our technologies, right? So you're starting to see a lot of tools doing that. You're starting to see a lot of, capacity in that regard, especially in sales. We're looking to optimize how the seller is engaging, especially in customer service, right? We want to make sure that the agent is empowered to be the expert, that the agent is actually working in a workspace, in a canvas that's really comfortable to them. Because if they can do their work better, if they can actually do the work of service, they're going to deliver an awesome experience, right? And it kind of fundamentally comes down to people like being good at their jobs, right? Like no one takes a job to be bad at it.
Yeah. There was a memo that was leaked. There was a memo that was leaked from DisrupTV where Ray apparently is looking to replace me with a chatbot. Again, I keep
Don't
telling
talk
him
about
that,
that.
the
That's
people thing is,
rumor.
it's all about
That would
the
never
people.
happen. That
It's
would
all
never
about
happen.
the people.
Vala, you should know that it was one of Ray's clones that typed that. Don't worry about it.
Ray has been
When
in
the clones are out of
metaverse for the
sync, I
last
can't
10
help.
years,
I
last
don't know what
10
they're
years.
doing. So.
When the clones start to write the memos, now we're in trouble.
Now we're in trouble.
Now we're in lots of trouble.
Speaking of important memos, there was a research that was recently launched, sponsored by Salesforce, where Edelman Group and Stanford and Columbia University looked at the link between CX and EX.
Yeah.
And the report found that on average, in companies that ignore the EX part of the equation, again, I don't know how you can expect customers to love your company before your employees do, but companies that ignore the EX part of the equation, on average, are leaving up to 50% of revenue on the table. Now, that number seemed pretty high to me. I was like, that's just a big number. What are your thoughts about real impact? Because you work with the best and brightest CMOs, all company sizes.
But not in Boston, since I wasn't invited to dinner. But whatever, Vala, we'll take care of that later. It's fine.
It was, in the spirit of change, it was a Boston-only CMO dinner. I don't know why we limited it to Boston. By the way, I got to talk to you about.
I know where Boston is, and I went
the hybrid work. The hybrid work was such a challenge for one of the CMOs. I won't name the company or the CMO said, "Look, we've got an older CEO, older board, and their expectation is people in the office. And even though for 2 years we've hit peak performance in revenue, EBITDA, all of this, they believe we could even stretch it more if we came back to the office." So I can imagine how the CHRO in that company, you're right, may not have a seat at the table because you've got a legacy mindset at the very top. But again, going back to, do you really believe companies are leaving that much potential income, revenue on the table when they're ignoring the employee experience?
Yeah, I would actually say it might even be more, to be honest with you, because it's hard to quantify. It goes back to that saying, you can't know what you don't know. Right, and if you don't have the solutions, you can track it. If you don't have that connectivity where you have put KPIs around how your workforce is working, how your workforce is engaging, how that experience is being delivered. If you seem to think that the only thing you need to measure when it comes to employee success is, did you hit your numbers? Did you hit your goals? Right? So we have that old operational mindset of how many calls did you take? How many calls did you deflect? How many people did you bring back into the fold? Right? If those are your contact center metrics, you are missing an opportunity in your contact center, right? Like if your metrics with marketers are how many emails did your direct campaigns open, you're stuck in that legacy. So you can have the big talk and you can say that employee experience is super important to your brand, but with the way that manifests is you put a foosball table in the cafeteria and invited everyone to come back. You're missing an opportunity, right? Like you're missing the real experience. And I think it's very parallel to what we saw with the onset of customer experience, right? Because we didn't listen to the right signals. We didn't listen to the right data. We made big assumptions at the very beginning. So when we started to deploy customer experience, loved us so much, they just wanted to hear more. And email is cheap, so let's send more of it. Oh, let's add social onto it because now they want to hear from us everywhere. We didn't listen to the right signals that truly helped us create a bi-directional conversation with our customers so that relationship could grow. We lost sight of that. We're doing the same thing with employees, right? We're doing the same thing with employees. Like, well, of course everyone wants to come back to the office. The other interesting thing about kind of some recent studies that I've seen around employee experience is that one of the greatest motivators why younger generations of our employees are leaving is because they have no loyalty or connection to our brands.
Wow.
Right. So it suddenly becomes this really interesting case for a hybrid or a more flexible operational environment where we're intentionally looking to build those moments where our employees get that connectivity, where they get to have FaceTime with Vala, right? Like where they get to have FaceTimes with their teams and they can have those engagements. They have some place to go. They have a third place almost. And then how do we bring all of that together? So it's really about breaking our mindsets of what we think our gut was telling us and starting to listen for those different signals. We've got a great roadmap for how that gets done well in CX. How do we apply that to EX?
Profound.
Yeah, I know. We definitely see that in those places. And one of the other things that you're going to spend some time talking about at the event is really, where voices come into place. Voices of, customers, where experiences. So talk a little bit more about that. Like what's shifted, right? I mean, since you joined Constellation, right? Like what's changed in terms of the way we look at, where the customer voice comes into play?
Yeah, like everything. Is that fair to say? Can I just make that my answer?
That's fine. I mean, it's a good answer.
Like, wow.
I mean, so
everything has changed, honestly. So I joined Constellation in 2019, and I think that at that time, we, when we look at, I think especially marketing and service, we were getting really comfortable in where we believed customer voice could be extracted. Right. So we were looking at those signals that our customers were giving us. What type of consent were they giving us? What did they fill out the form? Where were they searching online? Did they call into the call center? Were they really mad? Did they post something nice on social? We kind of had these moments. And then someone went out and was like, let's call it zero party data so we can do whatever we want to with it. That's a different TED Talk. What started to change really was that when everyone went home and everyone went digital really fast with the pandemic, we started to see this rapid mindset shift about what digital empowered for the customer and what digital empowered for the employee. So suddenly voice came from everywhere. Because voice wasn't just about an action. Voice was about sentiment. Voice was about what did I do today? Voice was about my buying intent. Voice was literally everywhere, right? So how do you now take and wrap your arms around everywhere when you're too focused on channel? And that's where we started to see this really intense focus on not only data and data aggregation, but the application of smart AI in the service of the relationship. So we've started to see really smart vendors start to apply AI so that it can take this massive thing called voice and turn it into signal. Right? Because at the end of the day, what we all want to do, jump on that signal, jump on that alert that says my customer is ready to buy, my customer's super happy, someone's going out of town, and not be creepy, right? Like we don't want to be like, so you're out of town, I'll be right over to your house to steal all your things. Like that's weird. But what we want to be able to do is start to determine like, hey, is Ray about to take a trip and, he just posted on social that he broke his luggage. Is the next trip he's going to take with new luggage with his family? Is it like we're taking so many complex things known as life, and now we have AI and we're applying it in the service of the relationship. We can be a lot more focused so that now we're taking data and acknowledging that as voice and turning that into signal and then acknowledging that deserves an action. So it's really fundamentally changing how that happens. I think the biggest change we're seeing is in customer service. I mean, I'm super excited about what's happening in service. Yeah. It is just
that's a big shift that's going on.
Space. Yeah. And I mean, you're seeing AI being put into like, not just like we're used to like AI helps a smart call get routed to the right person. We've been talking about that for like, it feels like a decade now. But now we're starting to see this empowerment of the agent to have a human, real, meaningful conversation with a customer who has already self-triaged most of their problem, through self-service and through smart content delivery. And now they're having a really meaningful conversation with the expert that they want to talk to.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
When done well, when you can deliver contextual intelligence in real time to a customer-facing entity, marketing, sales, service, where they bolster their sense and response capabilities using, for example, ML, where prescriptive analytics, where you tell them this is what you should do next because it has the highest probability of success. When you can create value at that speed of need, that's awesome. And if services organizations can do that, they will be the best tool in a marketeer's toolbox. because customer service.
Imagine knowing that.
It's
right. Imagine marketing getting that intelligence of like, hey, this is what's really moving the needle, and because of this call.
Absolutely.
I mean, it changes your vantage point. But we got to get rid of the silos, and we got, there's lots of steps.
It's hard. It's hard work. It's hard. But you can't do it without these emerging technologies like NLP and ML, and because as Ray has said in the past, when these algorithms make decisions on thousands of vectors simultaneously, you and I, well, you can probably do thousands. I can do like 5.
Maybe for song choices, maybe.
So you have to, but you've always said this, it's culture, it's people, it's process, and lastly, technology. You can't just become a revered brand because you got cool technology.
No, because now you just got really fast, bad culture. Yeah.
There we go.
I can put the coolest technology onto bad culture, and now I just got really fast, bad culture.
Ray,
something we really don't want. We are totally out of that.
Don't do that. Yeah, don't anyone go do that. Again, I don't want to hear it on Twitter that I told everybody to go automate bad culture. No.
Yeah. And that CIOs need to do more, and CHROs need to get a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Liz K. Miller, at Liz K. Miller.
We're quote. No. Hey, you'll see Liz and Diane. They're leading the Ambient Experience Summit in New York, May 31st through June 1st. And we're also doing our Ambient Experience Leaders Awards, the AX100. Actually, I think we're doing it at the Harvard Club. So if you guys are around, let us know.
1st.
And if anyone's in New York,
we
might have a few tickets left.
I may or may not have a pass. So if you really, I'm just saying, hit me up.
I'll be there.
Yes.
I'll be there. Yeah, Liz invites me to her events, and of course, I'm short-sighted, and I don't invite her to the CMO dinner.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I'll do better next time.
Okay, you get 2 choices. You can join us for Italian food, or you can join us for Korean barbecue on the 31st.
It's a choose your own adventure for dinner.
Choose your own adventure
dinner. It's going to be awesome.
I'm gonna make it to both. I'm telling you, I'm gonna find a way to do that.
They're 9 blocks away. You should be able to pull it off. All right. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Liz. Thanks for being here. Happy Friday.
Thank you, Liz. Cheers. Ray, Steve, Liz have expanded my mind, and I will be watching this episode again this weekend because all of them dropped incredible nuggets of wisdom. My favorite part of the show. Ray, please summarize the last hour with your key takeaways.
The hardest part of the hour. Okay, so let's take a step back. We've got massively new business models that are in place. Customer expectations are changing. Worker expectations are changing. And what's happening is like we're in the middle of this massive shift. And this shift, I mean, you're seeing it, right? New companies are being created to actually adopt to these shifts, and these new expectations are there. So let's take what Ray Hein was talking about on the new way of looking at PLM. You can't just build a product anymore. It can't sit alone. It's got to be connected. It's got to be thinking about next best action. It's got to be able to collect insight and use that to build new products or offerings, right? If you think about talent and what's happening in the world of talent, right? We can't just use the same models we had in the past and hope we get the same results. I mean, we've got different business conditions. We can't find talent, right? We can't attract or keep talent, right? But we also have to bring back, models that actually allow for that engagement, which we don't always have. I mean, think about all the salespeople who aren't sitting in a bullpen at the moment learning from each other. There's something lost there. Can you recreate that digitally? Should that be back into the office? Do we still need a sales bell? I mean, that's an example of like where that goes. And then of course, Liz is talking about where experiences are going. And if you look at customer experiences, supplier experiences, product experiences, employee experiences, I mean, that's where we bring that all together at the Ambient Experience Summit, and really having that conversation with an intimate group of about 100 people in New York. So that's kind of where we are. We've got new things to look at. Things are changing. We're going to call these very, very different things. Like 3 years from now, Vala, you are going to look back at this episode and say, oh my God, that was a really interesting point of time in history when all these things were changing at the same time.
Absolutely. What a great summary. People, products, processes, all being disrupted in ways we never expected 2.5 years ago. And this is the new norm. And You better stay adaptable and flexible and empathetic and authentic, because if you don't, people will go work somewhere else. We have choices today more than ever before. Next week, episode 281, we have Steve Hoffman, venture investor, chairman and CEO of Founders Space. We have Mike Nugent, managing director of Vestigo Ventures. He's joined with Ian Sheridan, managing director and co-founder of Vestigo Ventures. And lastly, Ryan David Williams, founder of Ashbury. So we have 4 extraordinary.
He's the Dow lawyer. He's like one of the top lawyers on Dows.
That's right. We're gonna learn about distributed autonomous organizations from Ryan David Williams. So get your popcorn ready, fasten your seatbelt. Next week's episode is going to be extraordinary. If it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. Thank you for watching. Please recommend guests for the rest of the year to Ray, myself, and our producer Al. We'll do our best to get your favorite business leader, entrepreneur, author, venture capitalist into and onto DisrupTV. Thanks, everyone.